testing my homemade black powder from the finest to the coarsest. I'm going to try to use 2.8 cc's scooper. I fill this, dump it in that can, on top of that can, and light it, and compare my results later. See which one's lighting faster. The way it's looking is the coarser it is, the easier and the faster it lights. That's pretty slow. That's the finest stuff that's in my bucket after I get done sifting, that I actually wind up, oh shit, how am I going to do this? Taking back and repressing it back into pucks. Okay, this is what I'm calling my number 5. Much quicker. This is going to be my number 4. Make sure I'm still recording. This is my number 4. Going to number 3. Shoot. I'm going to get this. Alright. I'm going to pause my video for a second. I had to go get a funnel. This is my number 3 size. You see that? That's number 3. Slightly bigger than 4 and 5. Scoop. Now I'm going to number 2. My number 2 is actually the one I get the least of. I don't know why, but when I'm crushing it up, it's the one I get the least of. That's my number 2. The number 2 is actually the size I was going to want the most of, and the one I make the least of in my process. Now I get it. This is my number 1 I'm going to get ready to do now. My number 1 out of them all, I actually think is my favorite, and I do get a good amount of that, even though when I started this out I thought I was going to want 2, and I don't get very much 2 when my process of crushing this and graining it. There's my number 1. I actually get a fair amount of number 1 size. So I think this lights. Put the lid back on. Don't want no stray sparks. You'll have a flash behind the camera. That's the number 1. Now this next size is what I consider my 0. I actually shoot this size in my rifle and my handgun, and I think this is the size I had in the shotgun. It actually works pretty good, even though it's pretty big, and I thought the finer stuff is what was supposed to work better. My powder seems to be working backwards. The bigger the chunks, I think, the nicer it lights. That's pretty quick. Now this one is the next size bigger than what I considered my 0F. This is, I just gave it a designation of an F. And you see the chunks in there. I actually was, this here stuff that I considered F, I actually was putting back into my process and regrinding it to make it smaller, to get my 3, 4, and 5. And the way my processes are figuring out here, my 3, 4, and 5 may be getting thrown back in the mix and repressed so I can have a bigger chunks. That lit a lot easier, and that was quick. I think the quickest one out of them all so far. Now this last size that I have in this container, I have no size designation to it because it is the largest pieces that I have that come through my process that I was grinding up and making smaller. But now that I am realizing my bigger pieces seem to be lighting better than the smaller stuff, You can see how it's, out of all my powders, this in here has all different kind of sizes in there. And that's because my screens I made, this don't fit through any of them. So these are the chunks that don't fit through any of my screens. Now let's slide this one. I think that was pretty. And I'm not leaving much residue there. Oh, I don't want to touch it. Burn my finger. But it does leave some fouling behind, but not as bad as I thought it would. And it seems to clean up off the guns pretty easy. Now this is, I'm using dogwood in this powder. I'm going to pause the video for a little bit so I can go get some of my powder that I made from mulberry tree. That tree right there in the corner of the video. Alright, I went and got my mulberry stuff. I don't have much of this left because I was shooting it. And this is before I realized my bigger stuff worked better. So I only have 1 through 5. Still going to use the same amount. One of these scoops. And now this is mulberry tree, and the branches were green. My dogwood is dead. It's brown, dead wood. About as dead as it can be besides being rotten. I don't know if it matters if the wood is green or not. So I'm figuring this out as I go. This is my number 5 mulberry. Alright. This is my number 4 made from mulberry. Okay, and getting ready to do the number 3. I'm actually a little disappointed that my smaller stuff doesn't work better than the big stuff, because the smaller stuff works out through the funnel and everything very nicely for metering it into my cases, and the bigger stuff gets stuck. I have to dip it by hand because it don't go through the pour. This is 3. This is my 3. God, where was that? Now we're going to do number 2. I probably have just enough to fill my scoop. I'll be out of number 2 for my mulberry. That was my number 2. And now my number 1, which that's my number 1, mulberry. Trying to keep all my different powders with the different woods. I'm doing some I use water with when I go to press it, some of them using alcohol, different processes I'm going through, trying to keep them separate to see what works best for me. I killed my lighter. Get my back up. Oh, it's not working. Get my other one. This one definitely lights it a lot quicker anyway. It's a hotter flame. That's my number 1 in mulberry. And this was green branches. Fresh green because I pruned the tree and I turned it into charcoal. So that's the powder I'm going to test in this video. If you watch it, you can tell which one you think is the fastest. Leave a comment, let me know. Appreciate it. I think the bigger it goes, the faster it goes. The bigger pieces go faster. And that's what I want. I want faster. Faster will give me more power. Thank you.